What's up, brothers and sisters? God sent me out to preach today. My guy Lenny, Ricky, Hammer, my new friend Linda over here. Okay, y'all. Here's the message today. Here's the word today. Here's my exhortation to you. Don't waste your life. Don't waste your life. That's the word for this message. Don't waste your life. In Matthew chapter 25, Jesus gave this parable. I want to tell you a story. Jesus gave this story to the people to teach them how to walk, how to use their lives. It goes like this. He said, one day there was a property owner. There's like a master, a king, whatever. And this property owner had 3 servants. And to one of those servants he gave, we'll say, $5,000. Maybe 50. We'll say 50. And the Bible uses the term talents, right? Talent is 75 pounds worth of something. So he gave like 75 pounds, 5 times over of gold. A lot of money. So we'll say 50,000. There's one servant, and the king gave $50,000 to this servant. There's another servant, and he gave $20,000 to that servant. And there's a third servant, and he gave $10,000 to the third servant. And the master said, I'm going away on a journey. I'm leaving. I'm going to be gone for a long time. But this money is for you to invest. It's for you to use. And I'm going to come back and collect what you have produced. So the master goes away. And he's gone for a long time, right? And the first guy who had the $50,000, he invested it. Maybe, he bought a little shop or something, made some money. And the master comes back after that time. And the master goes to the guy who had the $50,000. He's like, hey, where's that money? And the guy's like, Master, you gave me $50,000. I made $50,000 more. Here's $100,000. And the master says, well done, good and faithful servant. Then he goes to that second guy, the guy that he gave $20,000 to. He's like, hey, where's my money? And the guy's like, Master, you gave me $20,000. Here's $40,000. I made $20,000 more. And the master said, well done, good and faithful servant. I'm so proud of you. You used what I gave you well. But there was that one servant, the last servant. It's interesting because it's actually the servant who had the least amount of money. This servant only had $10,000, right? But that servant took the master's money, and he says that he dug a hole and he buried it in the ground. And the master came back and he said, Master, I know that you're a harsh master, collecting what you have not given, reaping where you have not sown. But here is your $10,000. I buried it in the ground. I give it back to you. What do y'all think the master said to that servant? You think he said, well done? And he said, good job. You buried my money and I got it back. No, what did he say? Matthew 25, verse 29 says this. Verse 26. It said, but the master answered and said to him, you wicked, lazy slave. You knew that I reap where I do not sow and gather where I scattered no seed. Then you ought to have at least put my money in the bank, and on my arrival I would have received it back with interest. Therefore take the talent away from him. For everyone who has, more shall be given, and he will have an abundance. But from the one who does not have, even what he has shall be taken away. And throw out that worthless slave into the outer darkness, in that place where there is weeping and gnashing of teeth. What's this message about? What's this story about? This story is about our lives. The story is about Linda and James and Henry and Julius and Daryl. The story is about us, right? Some of us receive a lot in our lives. If you looked at my story and my growing up and my incredible family, you might say, wow, you got a lot, dude. You got a $50,000 inheritance, right? My parents love me. My dad's a pastor. He's a good guy. He's not perfect, but they raised me really well. They were pumping the word into me the time I was a kid. And there's a lot of expectation that God has over my life. That's why I have to be in the streets. That's why I got to start a church over here. That's why the Lord has called me to so much. He's given me so much, and I got to give a return to God out of what he's given me. I got to do my best with what I have. But maybe you're like, but that's not me, Pastor Samuel. I didn't get that $50,000. My parents weren't there for me. I was talking with my brother Lenny. He did some time, and his parents weren't there for him. It's about bad influences growing up and stuff. Maybe you had the $20,000, or maybe even the 10. Maybe you had a little something. Life gave you a bad hand, it seemed like. God gave you a small expectation. But check this out. Even the person with the smallest expectation is meant to produce. Even the person with the smallest expectation is meant to produce. Even that person has started drinking when they were young, has started drugging when they were kid, whose parents abused them, whatever. Even them, there's an expectation because God has given us a reason for this life. God didn't give you your life so you can do whatever you want. He didn't give you your life so you could bury your talents in the ground, so you can do anything that you care about, so you can sit back in your self-pity. God gave you your life so you could bless him. God gave you your life so you could love your neighbor and love your God with all your heart. And listen to me, every one of you has something to give. You've got something to give. You have talent. You have intelligence. You have time. You have energy. And you've got something to invest in this community. And you've got something to give back to God. So here's my question. Are you wasting your life? Are you wasting your life? What God has given you? God gave you your time. He gives you a new day. So many people in this neighborhood, I say, how are you doing? And they always tell me, well, I got another day. All right? Well, I woke up. Well, God blessed me with another day. So what are you going to do with it? So why? Like, what is the purpose? So I can hang out and be sad and get high or whatever? Or did he give you this day so you could bless someone else? So that you could pray to him, so you could worship him, so you could make the world a little bit of a better place. You can. You can. God loves you, and he has called you to give back what he's invested. God gave you a life to give him glory. He gave you a life to give him glory. And sadly, one day we're all going to stand before our master. He's my master, he's your master, he's the master of the whole world. And one day we're all going to stand before him, and he's going to say, what did you do with the gifts that I gave you? What did you do with the time that I gave you? I was talking with my neighbor, Harold Randolph, and I said, Harold said, I don't get nervous about much anymore. I don't really get nervous about much anymore is what Harold said, because there was a scary moment in his life. Harold said, one day I stood before a judge, and that judge was going to sentence me. He's like, that was the scariest moment of my life. And once you go through that, not a lot can scare you anymore. How do you think it's going to feel when you stand before the judge of the universe and he's about to pass sentence on you? Some of you have stood before judges, and you know that fear of what it's like to stand there in the courtroom and about to receive a sentence. But there's going to be a greater fear and a greater punishment when you stand before God himself, and he's getting ready to sentence you to heaven or to hell. Are you wasting your life? What are you doing with your life? Think about this, brothers. Pray about this. Bring this to God. Say, God, I don't want to waste my life. God, I don't want to waste my time. I want to do something good for the people around me. God, most of all, I want to bless you. You gave me life. You gave me 10,000 days. How many days have you been alive? Every day God has given you. How many heartbeats have you had? How many brain waves? Every one of them. It's from God. It's a gift from God. So what are you doing for him? What are you doing with the investment he's put in you? Don't waste your life. Give it to God. Give it to the people. God bless you.